The story begins in an abandoned construction place in the middle of the night. We see a boy being surrounded by a group of evil people who are armed with dangerous weapons while hanging above a cage full of zombies who are eager to eat the boy. We learn that the boy's name is Jiang Zioyong. The woman asks if life is meaningless for him now because all of his friends are dead while she asks that. The cold sweat drips all over his face, and Jiang remembers the good times he had in the past with his friends and says to himself that it is all my fault that you guys ended up like that and regrets that things went that way. Jiang gets mad and screams at the evil woman that she deserves a miserable death, and that how a person can do something like that to fellow humans. The evil woman with a satisfied face is clinging to a man with a good build, and while she does so, she says that Jiang is angry at her again. The man suggests to torture him slowly so she can vent her anger at him for having such a foul mouth. The man thanks Jiang for the supplies, and because of the supplies they had, they can live a comfortably life for a few more months before the supplies run out. But while he does so, he clicks a button, and so because of that, Jiang falls with full force to the ground in the cage full of zombies who immediately get alerted by his presence. The zombies who are starving are running with full speed to Jiang, and once they get to Jiang, they begin to eat him alive, while we see that Jiang is coughing up blood because of the damage he is getting. Jiang thinks to himself that if he had another chance to live again, he would make better use of it, and that he would make them pay for what they did to him and his friends so that he would never experience something like that again in his life. Jiang, who wakes up again after experiencing something terrible, gets called upon by the same evil woman who betrayed him in his previous life, and while the woman screams that he didn't put her name to the house deed, he couldn't grasp the situation he is in right now because he thought to himself that he had died just a second ago. Jiang looks around and thinks to himself that could it be that I have been reborn before the time of the apocalypse and that they gave me a chain to redo life. He says that in his last life he has been deceived by Jing. We learn that she stole the inheritance left by his parents and made him homeless, and because of that he had to sleep on the streets in the cold weather. We also learn that later that time a global catastrophe occurred, so because of that most people were turned into zombies and plunging the world into chaos. With the help of friends, he survived and built a safe zone to survive the apocalypse until it is safe to walk around again. But he couldn't have known that the deceitful Jing pretended to be a desperate person seeking his refuge and sympathy. In the end, she betrayed him and let the enemy inside to destroy him and his friends. We move back to his house where Jing is screaming at him while saying 400,000 yuan and not a penny less. Jiang, with a serious face expression, stays silent while looking at her. The evil woman gets angry and asks if he heard her. Jiang thinks to himself that he cannot act impulsively now, so he needs to wait when it is the right moment. The evil woman says that she will give him a week time for him to make everything right, but Jiang cuts her off and says fine, I got it, so she needs to go while pushing her to the door. This shocked the evil woman a bit and thinks to herself that when did Jiang become so assertive, and asks if he wasn't her lackey before. Jiang closes the door and turns around. But while he does so, he looks at the clock and thinks to himself that he must prepare for the impending apocalypse that is going to happen in a month's time, because if he doesn't, the same will happen like last time. Jiang gets shocked, and we see a system alert saying the apocalypse system is now active. We also see several system missions saying own a piece of land to get 10 points as system rewards for completing the mission. Jiang asks in a surprised tone what those points can be used for once he completes a mission, and how he will be able to use them. We learn that there is a system store displaying different types of items which can be bought with system points he earns from mission rewards. We learn that in his previous life, he saved every penny he got to save up for the evil's woman bride price, which left him malnourished. Jiang picks up his phone and gets a message saying, "Are you full?" And he thinks to himself that the zombies will be everywhere in a month's time, so he should eat good food until that happens. We move to an expensive-looking building. We see nice-looking food on the table, and Jiang asks to himself if this is the legendary Michelin 3-star expensive takeaway. He wonders what a 300 yuan braised pork tastes like. While he puts the food in his mouth, his face expression turns into happiness after trying it. Then he screams that the food is unbelievably delicious. We see that the neck is enjoying his food like a pig, but gets surprised to hear a message from his phone when he is just enjoying his food. We see that he is being called by the friend of the evil women. He thinks to himself if that manipulative woman cried to her friend again, and sighs at the view of the name on the phone. The friend gets angry at Jiang for treating her friend like that, and says that she only wanted him to prove his love to her. She also says that if you can't give her property, how can you love her, which is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. She says that Jiang was testing him a little and that he failed miserable, but if he brings 1 million by the end of the day in cash to them, she might help him to get her back to him. Jiang gets angry at her and says, "Who do you think you are for testing me like that?" and that she needs to get lost. The friend is trying to respond, but Jiang ends the call before she can do so. Jiang lays back on the couch and thinks to himself that he will build the strongest fortress on this land where no one dares to come, but not only is it becoming defensive, it is also built next to a water source and forest, so he will not run out of water that easily. We move to a hall full of people who are walking where the Mig gets greeted by a woman while she asks what he is looking for. The Mig tries to respond to the woman, but gets cut off by a man who we learn is the real estate manager of this place. The real estate manager asks the woman to help the others move boxes in the back because they have a lot of toilet paper that needs to be dealt with. The woman tries to respond to her boss, but gets cut off before she could do so. The real estate manager asks if she has forgotten who taught her everything in this field of work, and with an angry tone sends her to the back to help. The manager turns around and says to the Mick that a broke loser in cheap clothes can't even afford a toilet, let alone a house to life in. The Mick, his face expression turns dark and gets angry, so he asks the real estate manager if he is looking down on people or if he is just an evil person. The real estate manager says that he looks down on dogs like him, and he further says that if the Mick can afford a toilet, he will live stream himself eating shit. Jiang says to the real estate manager that he will find some fresh, hot, steaming ones for him later to eat on stream. Jiang comes back to business and tells the lady worker that he is not here to buy a house, but to buy land for himself, saying this with a confident face. The real estate manager and the lady worker can't believe their eyes when Jiang pulls out a black pay card, and cold sweat drips from their faces. Every customer in the building is shocked beyond belief, so they are asking what Jiang means by buying land and if he knows how much money it will take to purchase a piece of land. Another customer explains that he has never seen anyone buy land so easily. They exclaim that Jiang must be a wealthy person to buy such expensive land. The lady worker still cannot believe her eyes and asks Jiang to please follow her because she will give him the best detailed introduction available. While they are walking away, the real estate manager, with an annoyed expression, says that everyone knows how to brag, but he is not capable of paying for such expensive land. Jiang takes a seat on a chair provided by the lady worker, who further explains that these are the land pieces they currently have available, so Jiang needs to look carefully at which piece of land he wishes to buy. Jiang explains that there is no need to do so, and that he will just explain what kind of requirements he needs for his land. After that, she will need to look for the land that fits his requirements. Jiang further explains his requirements, such as proximity to mountains and water, so he has a water source. He also specifies that it needs to have convenient transportation and should have large buildings on top of it. The lady worker thinks hard before she answers, but is interrupted by the real estate manager, who adds that there is a piece of land in the East District that fits Jiang's requirements. The lady worker asks in a surprised tone why he suggests the East District, as there are still unfinished factory projects there and they cannot sell such land to a client. The real estate manager becomes angry and says that this broke loser's requirements are outrageous and that he is not here to buy an expensive piece of land, but to cause trouble for them. Jiang is surprised to hear that there is a piece of land that fits his requirements and asks the lady worker for confirmation. She responds positively but further explains that there are still unfinished factory projects because the construction team leader ran off, and there is no one to finish the work in time. Jiang thinks to himself that it is a great location because it fits all of his requirements. He further says that if he puts up barbed wire, it will be easy to defend, and the unfinished factories will also save him a lot of money. Jiang tells the lady worker that he will take that piece of land and would like to make a contract now so he can pay right away. The lady worker takes the papers back from Jiang and says in a scared tone that they are sorry for offering something like that. However, after she hears his response, she gets a shocked expression on her face and asks Jiang if he really plans to buy land with unfinished projects. Jiang confirms that he does and says that someone is waiting to eat some fresh poop later, so they should hurry with the contract and down payment, while the real estate manager is sweating cold drops of sweat. A while later, we see the real estate manager holding a receipt and saying that it is impossible. He further says with a dumbfounded face that he really paid a $300,000 down payment and questions how someone can buy such expensive land with unfinished projects on it. Jiang explains to the real estate manager, who still cannot believe his eyes, that he made the down payment and that it is up to him to perform in front of the camera, so he should at least enjoy it. Having had enough, Jiang walks away, while other customers tell the real estate manager that they have turned on the live stream, so he needs to hurry up. Another customer adds that his stomach doesn't feel good, but promises that it will be fresh for him. Jiang thinks to himself that he has spent all the bride money on buying that piece of land, but now he needs to figure out how to get money to stockpile supplies for himself. As Jiang ponders, a fat man walks past him and wonders if that was indeed Jiang. The fat man continues to his destination, but is surprised to see the real estate manager being forced to eat poop after making a deal with Jiang. The real estate manager, in a state of shock, protests that he doesn't want to eat poop, but the people ignore him and keep putting the poop in his mouth. The fat man, now angry, exclaims about what the hell is happening in his absence. We then move to the evil woman, who is meticulously doing her nails. She receives a call from the fat man and answers, greeting him and asking if he remembers her. The fat man cuts her off, asking if she knew that Jiang went to the real estate company to buy an expensive piece of land. The evil woman gets upset and asks how a broke loser like Jiang could afford something so costly. The fat man explains that it was a $300,000 down payment, so he must have used the bride money. The evil woman becomes even more upset, fuming about how Jiang could use her money, but the fat man calms her down and tells her she needs to figure out what's going on with him. The evil woman says that she will expose Jiang online for using her money, and for doing so behind her back. We then return to Jiang, who thinks to himself that buying supplies and building a base requires a lot of money, and he doesn't know where he can get such an amount when he's broke. Suddenly, there's a loud bang on the door, which surprises Jiang. It turns out to be the evil woman with her friend. Jiang asks what they are doing there, but the evil woman cuts him off, accusing him of spending her money behind her back. Jiang is dumbfounded and asks what she means, but the evil woman insists that she knows everything, including how he used her bride money to buy a piece of land, and since it was her money, the land now belongs to her. Jiang becomes angry and asks if she has suddenly gone crazy. He explains that he has plenty of money while slapping her with a stack of cash. As the evil woman looks on in disbelief, Jiang makes it clear that he will never give her anything and asks if he's dumb for knowing that she has been having an affair with the fat man for a long time. The evil woman begins to sweat coldly, wondering how Jiang found out about the affair. Her friend jumps in, saying that it's just a misunderstanding between a couple and that they need to take it easy. Jiang interrupts, stating that there is no misunderstanding and that a cheating woman like her is not his girlfriend. He tells her to go back to the fat man and, irritated by her presence, slams the door in their faces. The evil woman, left outside, thinks to herself about how Jiang knows about the affair since they were very discreet when booking rooms. The evil woman and her friend start to leave, but the friend stops her and asks if Jiang told the truth about her affair with the fat man and why she didn't mention it before they confronted Jiang. The evil woman uses the excuse that they only booked a room a few times. The friend, concerned about how everything has spiraled out of control, suggests that they should go back and come up with a plan to handle Jiang. The evil woman agrees, saying that it is the only thing they can do at the moment. However, the friend thinks to herself that since the evil woman messed up with Jiang, she now has a chance to claim Jiang for herself. After all, they are good sisters, but she's not holding back. We then move back to the construction site where Jiang has bought the land. Jiang is asking a middle-aged man how long the renovations will take to complete. The middle-aged man, clearly perplexed, asks Jiang what kind of force he has offended to require such extensive renovations. Jiang explains that he doesn't need to know the details and that asking too many questions isn't helpful. He then inquires about the cost to complete the work within a month. The middle-aged man tries to explain that it's impossible to finish in a month, but is cut off by Jiang, who says that if he doesn't want to do it, he'll find someone who will. The middle-aged man reluctantly agrees, but clarifies that his concern isn't the timeline, but the cost that will need to be paid. Jiang asks what the price will be, and the middle-aged man explains that because the construction needs to be expedited and the work intensity will increase, the cost will need to be at least this amount. Jiang, surprised, asks if $20 million is enough. The middle-aged man confirms that it is and adds that Jiang needs to pay a $5 million deposit before they can start building. Jiang says he will transfer the money within a week and instructs them to hurry up with the construction. The middle-aged man tries to respond, but is cut off by Jiang, who adds that if the deposit isn't paid, the land will be his, so the man shouldn't worry about the payment. The middle-aged man agrees and acknowledges Jiang's terms. Suddenly, the friend of the evil woman calls out to Jiang. He turns around with a confused look on his face. The friend clings to Jiang's arm and asks him what he is doing there. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.